Hey folks, welcome to this week's edition of Wild Kentuckiana Live. I'm your host, Tom Chamberlain. And this guy next to me needs no introduction. Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, Tom. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Now folks, if you've watched my show for the past year, you've seen all the guests we've had on here. Commissioner of Fish and Wildlife, professional football players, professional baseball players, state senators, U.S. congressmen. But none of these guests make me as proud as to have you on here, Jim.
Well, that's awful kind of you to say. I don't know where that comes from, but I appreciate it.
You know, growing up, I always tune into your show. Well, actually, growing up, I started reading your articles in the Courier Journal years ago. And then I started listening to your radio show, and Dad would take me to your outdoor show every year that you had.
Yes.
So it was always, you know, my household grew up a Jim Strader fan. So we always listened to you. We all learned a ton from you growing up.
I appreciate that.
Now, you've been doing this a long, long time. And, you know, from time to time, I still call you for advice.
Yes.
So take us back in the early years. How did you actually get in this whole industry?
Well, it was a kind of a step-by-step thing. Like most folks, when I was young, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but my driving passion was hunting and fishing, hands down. So when I got out of college and went off and served in the military, got back, I went to work for Allied Sporting Goods. And they were a big player here in the Louisville area.
Oh, yeah.
And I liked that, but there was still a void. So I started writing for some bass publications, some local magazines and whatnot. And then I transferred to Florida, started doing wildlife photography. And the photography and the magazine experiences put me in position to apply for a job as an outdoor writer at the Courier Journal.
Right.
And John Richards was the vice president at the time, and he happened to be a friend of my stepfather's, which obviously didn't hurt a thing.
Right.
But basically went to work for pennies just to get started and get my name out there. And then that slowly but surely morphed into radio. And the radio gig has been tremendous for me. You know, I've done, as you know, TV, radio, newspaper, and magazines. I love radio more than any of it.
Really?
And I'll tell you why. As you know, my call is a show is a call-in format.
Yes.
I love the interaction with the audience.
Yeah, and it's really good because we'll listen on the radio, come back from a hunting trip or wherever, and we tune in to you on Sunday evenings trying to catch it. And, you know, there's a lot of good questions that are called into you.
Absolutely. And the satisfying thing to me, the Lord has blessed me.
Yeah.
Let's face it. I mean, in every phase of my career, I've had good luck. Now, I worked hard.
Yeah.
You know, I stayed with it and never was concerned about making the big bucks as I was advancing my career and helping people. That's what kind of drives my train. And as I say, radio is very gratifying that way because your interaction with the audience, you're actually giving them what they feel like they need to know. Absolutely,
because there's people that have called into your show and asked questions, and I'm thinking, you know, I thought about that, but I didn't really know the answer.
Right.
And somebody else has the same question I do, and it gets answered on the air, and then I get my answer also.
Yep. And I've also been very, very fortunate to be around the best in the industry.
Yeah.
When I came along, Bill Dance wasn't even on TV yet.
Right.
Harold Knight and David Hale and I were personal friends before they got their big catapult into the outdoor industry. I knew Hank Parker because he fished with Harold.
Right.
Roland Martin. My dad sponsored Roland Martin. My dad's lure company, Diamond Rattler Lure, sponsored Roland Martin at his very first BASS tournament.
Really?
Yes. And so I got to be friends with Ray Scott, for example. And all those connections, as you know, kind of rises together. You know, you interface with each other. To your point, you ask each other for advice.
Yep.
And you become each other's tribe, so to speak.
Sure.
And it's been quite a ride.
Now, how long did you write for the Courier Journal?
17 years.
Now, how did you go about picking what topic you were going to write for? Because you wrote about many different topics over 17 years.
Well, as I mentioned, I was lucky enough to have hunted and fished my whole life. And I started writing for the Courier when I was relatively young. I was 25 when I started writing for them. But I had spent every moment that I could in the outdoors.
Right.
And because, again, the exposure to the type of people that I knew, I was pretty well-rounded. So my quest became, what is hot now? In other words, I kind of have an outdoor calendar in my head. give you an example. Squirrel season's right around the corner.
We talked last night, and the first thing you said was Indiana squirrel season's getting ready to come in.
Exactly. And I'm fishing now, you know, that we're making the turn, the bait fish are ganging up for fall. So what I try to do is stay seasonally topical and choose things that are hot buttons. Obviously in deer season, you know what you're going to be talking about. But I sprinkle in, as you know, waterfowl. I did a show last week about how to train dogs. I've got a buddy of mine that I used to shoot in field trials for, that he's a 4-time national champion. Great guest.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
So it's networking as much as anything.
It is, and I've learned that having this show over the past year, it's you know, having one person on. Oh, I know this guy here. Right. He's an expert in this field. You know, next thing you know, you have him on because he's very knowledgeable about his area of the outdoor industry. And it just kind of snowballs into it. Well,
and the cool thing about seeing what you guys are doing and how you're doing it, you all are the new breed, so to speak, and your format and what you're doing is perfect for this generation.
You know, and we're hoping it is, and we're hoping we're answering some of the questions that the folks are wondering at home like you are, because, you know, you are the standard in the local area for question and answers, you know. And, you know, when it comes to anything like food plots or any type of hunting questions, everybody says, you got to ask Jim.
Well, like I say, I've just been fortunate.
You've got a lot of years in the industry. You've come across a lot of different scenarios.
Yes.
And you've learned how to adapt from those scenarios and move forward with them.
Well, here's what you see through the years. Some come and some go.
Right.
Okay? But the guys and the gals that stay in it are the ones that have a true passion for it and have something to offer to others. The ones that are in it for ego usually get washed out.
They do. And, you know, that's where, you know, people are like, well, you know Jim. Yeah, I know Jim. But everybody knows Jim. He'll talk to anybody. He don't care who you are.
No, that's right.
There's zero ego here, and that's what I really enjoy about you is your knowledge and your lack of ego you have.
Well, when you're blessed by the Lord as I've been, there's no place for ego.
You're right.
You know what I'm saying? It's paybacks.
Absolutely. It's time to give back. Well, folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Jim a little bit more. Stay tuned.
I tell people this all the time, and I think they think I'm kidding. A mature doe is as harder to kill than a mature buck. If there was as many big bucks out there as there are mature does, you could rack them and stack them.
I guarantee it.
Because they got a period of the year where they get goofy and stupid because it's breeding season. But those does are so attentive to everything around them from raising fawns. They're looking for danger all the time, and it's just embedded in their psyche, and they're on dead alert all the time.
You know, there's this one doe we had on the farm a few years back in Hardin County, and she'd get, I mean, she would stay out of range and circle you the whole time trying to catch you, and she would bust me every single day. And I tried harder to hunt her than any buck I've ever hunted.
I understand.
I wanted to thin her out. And then one day she was gone. I don't know if she got hit by a car, if somebody else got her, but she didn't bust me no more. So whatever happened, I was glad she was gone.
Yeah.
Because she would run my whole hunting. She'd just start blowing and stomping. And
well, that's the reason I preach all the time about not over-hunting a stand or not sitting on a field edge day after day after day. Because once those mature does know you're there,
you're done for.
It becomes very, very difficult.
Well, that or a lot of inexperienced hunters have a problem hunting the wrong wind.
Absolutely.
You know, they'll get into a stand, oh, I'm sitting over this beautiful green food plot. Wind's in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And it's blowing
Just
right
don't
out in the middle of
don't
that
sit
food
there.
plot, and it's just going to bust you every time.
Plan B every time.
And they get smart,
They do.
and they don't forget.
Well, when those does are on edge, all the deer in the field are on edge. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It needs to be a very relaxed atmosphere for you to be successful most of the time.
Right.
There's exceptions to this, but back to talking about the industry. One thing I like about your all show, you show actual hunting.
We do.
The way it happens in our part of the country. Too many of these shows are done on specialty ranches and properties where the deer, quite frankly, are stupid.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's not the same thing. And those shows should be watched for entertainment value, perhaps, but they don't teach much like the kind of shows you all are doing.
Well, that means a lot, and I really appreciate that. And a lot of our sponsors have kind of tagged us the blue-collared hunters.
Yes.
Because we shoot does on film.
Absolutely.
And we show them, because you got to have your doe management. We don't shoot 190-inch bucks.
No.
We take mature 130-inch, 135-inch bucks,
Yep.
and we show misses.
Well, that's what it's all about. I mean, it's real world stuff.
If you walked out there and you never seen a show that never, I'm not going to mention any show names because I'm friends with a lot of them in the industry, but they never ever show a miss. Nobody hits their target every single time.
No.
I flew 5 arrows at one buck one time.
Is that right?
He never moved, and I ran out of arrows.
It's a bit of a crapshoot, but luckily we've got a lot of big deer here too.
We do. Folks, we're going to take another quick break. We'll come back and we'll talk more with Jim Strader. Be right back. Hey folks, welcome back to Wild Kentuckiana Live. I'm your host, Tom Chamberlain, and with me I have Jim tonight. So Jim, we're getting close to squirrel season for your benefit because you got one of the best squirrel dogs around. But then we're going to branch right into deer season.
Yes, sir.
And before that, one of your other passions, you're going to be on the dove field for a while.
Absolutely.
How's that coming along? How's your dove fields looking?
Good, good. The abundance of rain has got everything, just as I mentioned before, so lush that it's unbelievable. Now, the trick's going to be to get in the fields and be able to manipulate them to attract the doves because we're having rain every other day.
What are you doing as far as you mowing strips in a week or two before?
Yes.
What are you planting besides your sunflowers?
I use millet. I use Proso millet and foxtail millet and integrate it with it. I've experimented around some with sweet corn.
Really?
Which is something that is very, very attractive to doves. However, you have to fence it because you know what the deer and coons will do
absolutely.
to it. But it's very, very attractive to them. And there's some varieties of popcorn that offer some promise. Because in too many of our fields, what we see, if they're planted year after year after year in the same thing, there's all kind of invasive weeds that start to become a problem. And
you lose nutrients in the ground
yes,
and everything.
It's about diversity.
Yeah.
Everything should be about diversity.
Right. So we're going to go from squirrel season straight to dove season, right into deer season.
Right into deer.
In between there sometime, you're the big guru I know for food plots. And you've now are part owner of a company. Tell us a little about that.
Well, the name of our company is Wildlife Habitat Solutions. And again, I was fortunate enough to partner up with Shane and Caleb Butler.
Two great guys.
You know them. You know them well. Huge background in seed production.
Yes.
Their family farm is one huge seed production farm. They grow warm season grasses, bundle flower, a lot of the things that are integrated into those things. And honestly, they know more about warm season grasses and the plantings of it
Right.
than I'll ever know, because they've done it just about their whole lives.
Right, right.
So what I'm there about is where to place the plots, food types that'll benefit the entire year, and we integrate our strengths, and we're having a ball with it. I mean, we're spread so far and wide already that it's crazy.
You all are doing kind of a one-stop shop for the deer hunter that doesn't have time, the equipment, or knowledge to do that for
That's
them.
exactly right.
Because with you and your two partners, y'all have all the knowledge you need. You have the equipment, the know-how. You go out there, take care for you. So basically, it's got to come out there and hunt. It's got to perform.
Exactly. And we've built up a tremendous list of clients in the last year.
Oh, I bet.
And referrals have been magnificent.
Yeah.
I mean, we're doing work for Coach Scrum. We just
Okay.
did a thing out at his place. Chris Redmond's going to have us putting some plots on the place
Yep.
he's got. Just, on and on and on. I mean, Ballard Rogers, I don't know if you know
Yep.
Ballard, but he's a very serious deer hunter. We're doing management on his property now, and it's fun. It's a great thing to be able to go in, look at a piece of property on a topo map, or drive it with the client and say, okay, give us a day. We're going to put our minds to this. We're going to bring you back a plan that's going to maximize what you've got to offer. And everybody's been awestruck by what we're able to do. And the credit for that goes to my partners, honestly. I
Now,
mean,
how long have y'all been in business?
A year.
Have you exceeded your expectations in a year?
It's eating us alive. It's like so many things in life. If there's a need for something and you do truly have the ability and the knowledge to do it right, they'll beat the doors down.
You can have your full of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got, I don't know, over 8,000 acres under management now.
Wow.
It's just crazy. We got some real big tracts down in Western Kentucky. One of the tracts that I'll say we inherited was a huge strip mine area that a friend of Shane and Caleb's had bought years ago. And you talking about a renovation project.
I bet.
You can't imagine.
Because they strip it all.
Absolutely. And we went in and limed it and grew turnips and radishes to create compost in the soil. And that's one of the things we're keen on is radishes and turnips, because a lot of folks don't realize they plant it because they know the deer like to eat the greenery.
Sure.
But the real benefit to it is in the spring when that tuber dies,
Right.
it creates compost, breaks up the soil, aerates it, and you're already fertilized.
Yep.
For all practical purposes, it's a self-fertilization program, and that's gratifying to see that go to work.
Absolutely. Folks, when we come back from our next break, we're going to talk about this time of year, what should you be planting to hold your deer on your property. Stay tuned. Hey folks, welcome back to Wild Kentuckiana Live. I'm your host, Tom Chamberlain. With me is Jim Strader. Jim, before we went to break, we were talking about food plots. Now, folks still have some time to get some food plots in before the
Yeah,
end of the
really,
year.
we're hitting prime time right about now. We do a lot of our planting in late August and September.
Okay.
It seems like the soil conditions are a little more conducive, and we just had really good long-term luck by planting just a little bit later than folks do on average.
Yeah.
This year's an exception because we're moist.
What if somebody's going to put out a food plot now to get them through gun season, late muzzleloader, or into late archery? What would you suggest them putting in the ground?
Well, I like varieties in foods. I'll give you an example. Our mix that we developed has several different components designed to start the deer off on one type of food, transition over to another that sweetens up and starts to gain growth. And it's a mixture of cereal rye, winter wheat, oats, dwarf Essex rape, clover, and turnips.
Okay.
And some radishes.
That's a variety of everything.
Well, and I'm a firm believer, as are my partners, that deer like to eat different substances at different times.
Okay.
It's not, clover is the best bang for your buck you can get.
Yep.
I will say that. And if you don't have access to anything else for the winter, I love mixing wheat and cereal rye.
But you're planting a buffet for them.
Absolutely. And like I say, they'll hit some of it earlier than others. Austrian winter pea is something that's also intermixed. They'll hit some of that early, and then the ryegrass will jump, and they're really not tuned to it. And then they switch over to the brassicas later. So it's a evolution of foods that's coming along.
As the frosts come in, more stuff gets sweeter.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And folks, this is how you're going to manage and keep big deer on your farm, is by putting these food plots out. And if you don't have time to do it, then you need to contact the Wildlife Habitat Solutions guys over here. Jim and them can put you on the right track, help you out with whatever you need. And, you know, Jim has killed some dandy of deer in his lifetime because he manages his property properly. And you do these food plots, and you're holding these deer.
Yes.
These deer are not going to your neighbors because you have everything they possibly need right there on your place.
That's exactly right. And deer are very attuned to using a property and staying with it as much as they can. They don't want to leave.
Right.
But if they don't have food and they don't have cover,
right, they're gone.
They're going to migrate out, and your buddy a mile away is going to harvest your deer. So it's just a integrated thing. The two periods in the year when deer need food the most, quite frankly, are late spring and summer. Insects take a tremendous toll on deer in the summer in this part of the world, and then late winter. And too many guys don't have winter food out there.
Oh, you're exactly right. Now, this right here you can tell is a late season. This is your kill last year? Is this here in Kentucky?
Yes, it is.
Now, was that over a food plot that you had planted?
No, that was actually a what I call an urban deer.
Okay.
Backyard buck kind of situation, but it was in an area that has abundant food year round.
And that's the key to keeping your deer on your properties, having the abundant food source that they need, the water source they need, the cover they need. If they don't feel safe, they're not going to stay.
And minerals.
Minerals.
Tom, I know you're a big fan of minerals, but I want to give a plug here to folks about that. Most people only start to throw mineral out in the fall. Bad idea. That mineral needs to be there in late winter and spring so that the bucks and does can adequately digest that green food that becomes available early. It's hard on their gut.
Yeah.
And those minerals help balance their metabolic rate and their intestinal system in a way in their stomach that lets them maximize the food they eat.
Plus it grows big bones.
Absolutely. And I mean, they're slamming mineral this year.
Oh, I know.
Like crazy.
I've got some of the biggest holes I've ever had off the mineral sites this year.
Me too.
And I could almost put a 074 LTD hood in one of them. And you know how big those things are.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's like they start out digging and digging and digging, and then the more rain it gets in, the more it gets in the ground, and you know they just keep digging bigger holes.
They love it.
It becomes a pond at some point.
Yeah.
You know, then I have to move mineral sites over because it's holding water because they've dug it too deep.
Absolutely.
And that's when you know you're really doing the right thing. Now, Jim, for the folks that don't know, which there's probably not anybody out there, when does your show air and what time does it air?
It's Sunday nights from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Right.
With WHAS radio, 840 on your dial.
840.
And it's, as you know, it's a 50,000 watt clear channel station. We reach 38 states and field calls from Texas to Maryland to Virginias and Carolinas. Tell you a funny story about that. During the 80s when the Bassmaster Classic came to Louisville, I got a phone call and it said, "This is Hank." It was Hank Parker calling me from Corpus Christi, Texas, saying, "Jim, Classic's coming to Louisville. I'm hitting you up. I want you to be my scout. I want you to fish with me to get ready for this Classic."
That's awesome.
And he just caught the show.
Yep.
We just announced that the Classic was going to be in Louisville, and that was cool.
Well, folks, Jim, thanks for coming out. Folks,
Thank
we'll
you.
see you next time. Wild Kentuckiana Live.